Welcome to The Real Money Show, the number 18778 Silver, and the website guildhallwealth.com. This is the show that empowers listeners with analysis of the precious metals market, uncovering trends and opportunities which often go ignored by the legacy media. We aim to educate and inspire those who prioritize real wealth measured in ounces, not depreciating fiat currencies, and fostering a community that values financial resilience, independence, and freedom. Of course, if you've missed an episode, please check it out on YouTube. We're on YouTube as well as Rumble, and you can see the up-to-date news on our X feed at Guildhall WM. My name is Jeremy Wiseman. I'm joined by Jerry Correia, and of course, our faithful leader, Paul Wiseman. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to be back on the air. I haven't been on for a while. I'd like to welcome our listeners actually in Calgary on AM 770. We haven't been on the air there for a while, and we're excited to be back on the air, as well as our own listeners on AM 640. You can listen to our radio show 1 o'clock on Saturday on AM 640. And 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. If you've missed the show or you would want to hear it twice, you can do that. It's been a real strange week this week in the markets. Jeremy, what do you think? I mean, the prices have gone up tremendously on gold. I think we're going to hit 3,000. I think we could go on to 3,500 very, very quickly.
Yeah, there's certainly been some major banks looking for $3,500 an ounce. Jerry, what did you make of this week?
A lot of revisions. Yeah, a lot of revisions. It was actually the UBS and Goldman Sachs who have had to come out and revise their numbers. And that's what they usually do. They come out with some figures of 2,700 last year to revise to 29. And they recently, Goldman Sachs just last week had to revise that upwards to 3,100 with the possibility of seeing 3,300. And I make the case. I'm like, why don't you just raise it to 10,000 and call it a day and save some face? We know we're going to end up there eventually, whether it be through just normal price action or the revaluation, which we're going to get into a little later.
That's right. So we did see Bank of America raise their price target to $3,500 an ounce. They referenced China's insurance industry adoption as a key driver.
Big one.
This was a story we talked about, I believe, on last week's show, which is in China, they're now allowing 1% of insurance funds to go into physical gold, which is obviously going to create strong demand for the gold market. And it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to just that 1%, but that's where they're starting it at. Citibank also has suggested a potential rise to $3,400 an ounce based on physical supply demand models. So that's we're seeing revisions higher, and we know that banks tend to be quite conservative. But hey, look, if you can go from what we started the year below 2,800, we're now cusping 3,000, and major banks are looking for 3,400 to 3,500. I guess the question becomes, where could that put the silver market? And right now, the ratio is pretty high. But I think that silver we broke 33 today as we taped the show on February 20th. And that's very, very good news for the market. Paul, what did you make of breaking 33?
Well, 33 is a milestone. 33, we should get up to 35, 36 very, very quickly. It's only another 10% increase, but it looks like it's going to get there. You have to remember, for our clients listening out there, we only deal in physical product. We don't handle paper products. We're not in stocks. We're not in futures. We're not in options. We're not in ETFs. We sell the physical product. You can go to our e-store. You can order product. We have lots and lots of product, whether it's 10-ounce RCM silver bars, 10-ounce Asahi silver bars, which we love to death. We have the Valcambi kilo silver bars, which are really, really nice. And then gold. We have RCM 1-ounce gold bars. We have Valcambi 1-ounce bars. We have gold maple leaves with the king on them. They're brand new product, and it's available. We don't really handle a lot of secondary market. That's not our business. We handle fresh new product, whether you're taking it home, whether you're putting it in our safe, secure vaults at Brinks, whether it's in Calgary or in Peterborough in Ontario, Or if you're investing in registered accounts, we partner with Questrade. You can invest in TFSAs, RSPs, liras, lifts, any type of product that you want to put into one of these accounts. So we only put in physical product. You get bar numbers. We're probably one of the only companies in Canada that offer you that type of service.
The number 18778-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. Jerry, over the last few weeks and I guess over the past month or so, we have watched as the physical product has been drained out of the vaults in London and been effectively reshored back into the United States. What are we seeing this past week with regard to that?
Jeremy, this market just on fire pertaining to the repatriation. We have charts that we're going to show up on the X that show the move of metal. Now it's both gold and silver, and I think we're often overlook. I think we're overlooking silver right now in the market. Over the past 6 months, the U.S. Treasury, through a major wholesaler, has been purchasing physical gold in the tune of $120 million for gold in the last 6 months. Now, little do we know that the U.S. Treasury has actually spent 400, so 4 times the amount of gold for silver bullion from London being shipped in, and it's coming into the COMEX. That's what we know. What we also do know is as soon as it's hitting the COMEX, it's right back out for delivery. Where is it going? We know that the major consumer, the major the entity right now that is trying to swallow up the market is the U.S. Treasury through the U.S. Mint. So this is exciting times. This is the reason why we're seeing a lot of talk about potential revaluation, Fort Knox audits, a lot of headlines, but it all pertains to gold. It all pertains to physical silver. Why? Because they're crucial. They're beyond important. These are strategic metals and critical minerals. Silver should be on that list as well. So it's a very important time, very exciting time to watch how these market flows and see how this audit ends up.
Yeah, so there's going to be some big news. We're going to get to that shortly on the show, talking about the Treasury, talking about auditing the Treasury, talking about Fort Knox. Last week we discussed that they are looking to potentially even audit the Federal Reserve. So that's very interesting as well. But first, Paul, what are things looking like in terms of inventory? Obviously, it does seem like the LBMA is very stretched. What are you seeing in the wholesale world in terms of getting physical product to market?
Well, we have lots and lots of product. We've always made sure that we purchase, 2-3 months ahead. We always think a little forward. It's getting very, very tight. For probably the last 6 months, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but people were selling off product. The economy was very, very tough. People need to, put food on the table. People have to pay their mortgage. People that are in real estate that have 4 or 5 different condos maybe with variable mortgages got caught in the middle. It's hard in Toronto, especially the price of condos to rent have gone stupid. And I don't know how some of these investors are keeping their head above water. But right now, it's slowed down. People as well were putting money into cryptocurrency. They were looking for that instant gratification. And, gold, we've always said, is for your golden years. It's an investment that you put aside. Every year it seems to go up about an average of 10%, I think, over the last 20 years, which is a pretty good return. Whereas inflation, you buy a GIC, you have to lock in for a year or 18 months. You may get 5% if you're lucky, but it's going to get inflation is not 5%, and you're going to pay tax on that. You're not keeping up with, inflation. So I think this is a great time to buy gold. I mean, we have customers that are sitting on the fence. They're saying, well, we're waiting for it to come down. I think you've missed the bus. It's not coming down. It's moving up, as you said at the beginning of the show, Jeremy. Most of the banks are calling for $3,400, $3,500 before the end of the year. That's, an up 20% probably before the year end. That's not a bad return on investment.
And are you seeing a difficulty getting physical product from wholesalers? What are they telling you at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's slowing down. I mean, as a competition, we've been in the precious metals business since 2004. If you look at our competition now, we've got Costco, that decided they want to be in the precious metals business with a maximum. Maybe you can buy 2 bars of gold. If you want to sell it, I don't know who you're going to sell it back to, because they're not going to buy it back from you. It's competition, and that competition where you have someone like Costco that swallows up the market from their manufacturers. The terms are very, very strict on precious metals. It's normally a 2-day turnaround when you're buying for us to buy precious metals. When someone like Costco, they're not looking for 2 days, they're looking for 60 days and 90 days, and it's making it very tough on manufacturers and dealers to supply these people and then be able to supply their normal dealers. It's just not happening.
Let's stay on this topic with regard to Costco and what it means to the market as a whole. Is it good? Is it good for the consumer? Is it good for the industry long term? Because what we're seeing in the market could have profound effects for the end user at the end of the day. So let's stay on that topic. If you want to get involved in the gold and silver market, we recommend going to our website, guildhallpreciousmetals.com. Of course, all orders over $1,000, there's free shipping. We track you'll get your tracking number, shipped by Canada Post, fully insured. And of course, great pricing. Go to guildhallpreciousmetals.com. And if you want to hold physical gold in a registered account, go to guildhallwealth.com, and we'll show you how to get your own fully allocated, segregated, hold in your hand physical gold within a registered account. The number 1-877-8-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. Jerry, I had a question from a client of ours talking about this repatriation, that we're seeing all this physical gold and silver coming over from London. And the concern was, does that play into the idea of confiscation? Is the U.S. asking for its gold from London? I know originally it was under the narrative of tariffs, but now it seems to be growing into something else entirely. Is this potentially a government overreach?
Well, the mere fact that number one, the gold and silver cannot be tariffed. It doesn't. If you read the Canadian law, it's in there. You cannot tax. They're not taxing money. So number one, the narrative push that somehow tariffs are going to impact the movement of gold and silver. I mean, it does impact on things like miners who can potentially be impacted. We're following the story right now in Mexico that are threatening nationalization of their silver mines, and we all know that silver is a huge import for the United States to bring that silver in. How important that is for their military. But talking about confiscation, that was then. The Americans back in the 30s, when the Gold Confiscation Act was enacted, almost every American had gold. But unfortunately, since the 70s, there's been a huge campaign to tell the average individual, average consumer, average investor here in North America to not own the stuff. What you want to own is this derivative, this certificate. And it's worked handsomely, because the statistic goes now less than 1%. Less than 1% of the North American population own any physical gold whatsoever.
But isn't there a fear that if the product is being pulled out of London, that there's a lack of trust, and if the government can pull it from there, can't they pull it from you?
Well, this is why for Guildhall, what we do is go a step further with how we own the gold and silver. And we have learned how to hold it and how not to hold it. And we've learned through the mistakes of some countries who have tried to repatriate their gold and have failed, or have been hugely delayed. If we look at places like Germany, who have repatriated, Austria, Venezuela, some countries who haven't even gotten their gold and silver. Why? Because they're missing one important caveat, and that's getting clear title ownership through bar serial numbers. That's what Guildhall prides itself in. If we did not offer bar numbers, we would simply not offer it. We would just say, go ahead and take it home, because you're just compromising your wealth insurance.
Yeah, I see it along the same lines. I see it that What's happening right now, to your point, Jerry, is, Venezuela tried to get their physical gold from London and they kiboshed it. They wouldn't let it happen. I think what's happening right now is anti-globalism. It's part of a mercantilist movement where it's, I'm going to own my country's gold and we're going to keep it in our country. We're going to, and potentially as we get to the Fort Knox news, we're going to be transparent and we're going to hold it here, because I think the threat is not confiscation in the sense of a sovereign nation taking it from its citizens. I think the threat is that the product could be rehypothecated by those holding it in London. So the biggest news here, I think, is ultimately this. There's 4 pieces of paper for every physical ounce of gold. I think on silver, it's hundreds of ounces of on paper versus the physical. We've got the Bank of International Settlements rules coming in where it's got to be 1-to-1. In Shanghai, the exchange, it's 1-to-1. If you want to have fairness in the market and find out what the real price is, you got to have the physical product in the vault.
100%, Jeremy. Now you hit the nail on the head, because what we're talking about here, when we talk about 400-to-1, 400 paper certificates or ETFs for every 1 ounce of silver and 100 paper instruments for every 1 ounce of gold, we're talking about what Warren Buffett says. We're talking about the derivatives market. We're talking about not just trillions. I mean, congratulations, USA. You just crossed 36.5 trillion in a matter of 2 weeks. We're going to hit 37 in a couple weeks. But we're talking about the toxic derivatives market, which Warren Buffett calls the weapon of financial destruction. This is it. This is what we're dealing with. And the paper market is what's about to break. Harry Brown mentioned, when the paper markets start cracking at the seams, the run for gold and silver is explosive. And that's what we're seeing. Explosiveness happening on demand. We look around the world now of people holding their gold from Mali, taking gold away from Barrick. When they pull it out, they want a new deal. They want to restructure a new deal for the people, for the surrounding society, for the environment, perhaps. We're seeing Shubai, China's largest retail gold market, last week reported gold shortages. They're not getting it. China's keeping it. They never export their gold. Even the Korean mint can't produce gold bars for Korean banks. Suspension of silver bar sales. They're holding it. Hoarding gold and silver is a theme. It's primarily affecting 4 of their top banks in Korea. But the mindset is a lot different in the East, where they've been telling their citizens, buy gold. Hey, just buy some gold for yourselves. We're not going to do that here in Canada, of course.
Well, it's something that we've been following for years in terms of central banks acquiring gold. There's got to be a revaluation at some point along the line here. But Paul, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. This broke actually on January 28th, that the U.S. Mint took delivery of physical metals. They took 2.2 million of worth of silver from Asahi. They took $60 million of gold from International FC Stone, $16.6 million of silver from StoneX, and $17 million worth of silver from A-Mark Precious Metals. That is a lot of physical silver that the Treasury, they're saying, took delivery, which presumes they purchased it at some point. And all of this product must be coming from retail, coming back into the market and refined and being sold back to the Treasury, right?
Secondary market of product, things like coins. I'm not a great believer in pneumatics, where people collect coins because they think, you can go to a grocery store and buy bread and milk. It's not like it was in the 18th century. Someone's going to, cut a little bit of gold off and weigh it. It's not going to happen. So coins, basically, silver that gets tainted or silver that gets discolored, people haven't got time to shine that up. They send it back to a refiner. They melt it down. They send it to the U.S. Mint, who then make silver eagles or gold eagles. They need to also get that retail market to make believe that everything is great in the marketplace. When the U.S. Mint can give you gold and silver, it's great. Right now, from a lot of the dealers, the major dealers, they do not have product. The product, they they will say to you is you can book the order, you can book the price, but you may not get delivery to the end of March or April. It means it's tightening up. And once people realize that you can't get it, they jump on the bandwagon. They want it. They line up for it. You know, during COVID, we were so busy when, you know, we had the thing in Ottawa where the bank, you know, Canada froze some of the people's bank accounts. People lost a little bit of trust, you know, in the banking system, and they wanted to own gold and silver. Guess what? They did great, because the price of gold has virtually doubled since, 3 years ago. So this is a great opportunity now to buy gold and silver. Whether you buy 10-ounce bars, kilo bars of silver, 100-ounce bars, as I said, we carry RCM, we carry Asahi, we carry Valcambi, we carry all the name brands. We don't carry secondary product and sell secondary product to our customers. That we will send to refiners to be melted down if we don't want it.
The number 1-877-8-SILVER and the website guildhallwealth.com. I think, we want to talk a little bit about Costco. First of all, if you want to be pro-Canadian, let's everyone know that Costco and Amazon are two major American companies. That's number one. Number two, it's great if you can get cheap pricing, get the best pricing possible. Everyone is going to be price conscious, and if you can get it at a better rate, so much the better. I think the challenge there, of course, is limited availability. So yes, if you're buying 1 or 2 ounces a week, that's fine. But I had a conversation with a client this week where it was, we keep giving him quotes. He keeps wanting me to sharpen my pencil, and I said, if you really want me to sharpen my pencil, you should have got the product a month ago, because the price was that much less. The other thing with Costco is that ultimately, when it came to last year, when there was a lot of the retail market selling back, I think it was convenient for bullion dealers to be able to offload a lot of inventory, sell it all to one place where Costco would do their own distribution of the product, and it was a very easy way to not have physical product sitting in a vault, just wasting away, waiting for a bullion dealer to buy it, and maybe they can't buy it. Maybe they're not looking to buy right now because there were more sellers than buyers last year. The problem is, of course, is that with large companies like that, there's 90 days, right, Paul? You got to wait 90 days to get paid, whereas with a bullion dealer, they're willing to pay right away, right? They might be buying less, but you're getting the money coming through the door. The other problem is that all of these bullion, these wholesalers that are selling to Costco, I believe their board of directors are going to turn to them and say, guys, you're selling on vapor and waiting 90 days. Like, it worked in 2024, but it's not working in 2025.
It's not working.
So, and then of course, the end user, the retail buyer, suffers because the dealers don't have any, and Costco, you're waiting for the product because you can only buy 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. Congratulations to people who can continue to buy at those levels and pick up at Costco. Hey, listen, we're always happy buyers. You can't sell it back to them, but you can sell it back to us. So we're happy there. But I think that's going to be a challenge for the market going forward, and we'll monitor this story and hope that the dealers, right, Paul, figure it out.
Well, eventually they'll figure it out. But again, as I said, when people go into Costco, you've got to use a credit card. They won't take cash. So, and if you're putting things on a credit card and you are maxed out and you're paying 24% a year, you're really paying a premium for something that you think is cheap, is expensive.
True. If you're paying interest on the credit card, that could be a difficult thing. The number 1-877-8-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. Coming up, we have to get to the Treasury news. This is big news in terms of what's happening at the Treasury, what's happening with Fort Knox. Does this lead to the Fed? What happens when you start auditing things, right? So we're going to get to that, what that means for the gold and silver price. And according to Scott Bessent, I don't know, maybe it's not a good thing at all. So we're going to get into that in the next segment. In the meantime, we've talked about banks looking for much higher prices in gold. That means silver could easily move into the $40 range even this year. The number 18778 silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. One of the vehicles that we offer at Guildhall is holding physical gold and silver in a registered account. And what makes this unique is that we offer clients a fully allocated, fully segregated account. You have your own sub-account at Brinks. The product is deposited into that sub-account. The serial numbers are recorded, your own serial numbers. This isn't a pool account. This isn't a fund. You have direct ownership of this product. You even have the ability to go to the vault and personally audit the holdings. And as we say, if you can't hold it, you don't own it. And that is a feature of this. And it gives people peace of mind. It's also being stored at Brinks, which means it's outside the banking system. You know, Jerry, a lot of people are concerned about the next leader of the Liberal government who seems, is he going to pull the Emergency Act on people? You know, the last time that happened, people pulled their money out of the banks real quick and got into precious metals. Of course, precious metals have done very well since then. And that could happen even more. I think that should be a warning to any new leader of the government. Listen, we can all vote with our pocketbooks.
That's exactly it.
And protecting your wealth with physical metals is a great way to go.
Yes, this is the importance, and this is one of our themes here: is bank outside of the banking system. Gold and silver are your reserves, and this is the reason why central banks around the world. All we're going to do here is empower you to become your own central bank with Guildhall. Your reserve must perform for two reasons. You want to have liquidity, and you need to decouple your wealth from crazy madness happening in the financial system. Who would have thought they would have froze people's bank accounts? But they proved very quickly that they will resort to that. That is their last resort. And the notion of undigitizing your wealth is so important, as we're seeing countries undigitize and de-dollarize and even move away from the SWIFT system, as many have done through Russia, and the BRIC nations have shown this is the way to mitigate and to roll with the punches. De-dollarizing and undigitizing your wealth away from the banking system simply just means your money is more than just ones and zeros, binary code sitting on a computer. Your money should be now converted out of losing fiat currencies. The loonie has lost over 96% of its purchasing power since 1915, and it's on its way down. We have a currency war where all nations are looking to devalue their currencies so they can one-up each other for exports. Long gone are those days where you're now storing wealth in fiat currencies. You're now undigitizing. You're doing that with Guildhall in one of our registered accounts, or even taking it home.
The number 18778 silver, and the website guildhallwealth.com. So, Jerry, we're recording this on February 20th. We had late breaking news last night on Air Force One. You had President Donald Trump saying, "We're going to Fort Knox." Did you hear about that? And you're saying, "Well, no, I'm hearing about it now, sir." Yeah, we're going to Fort Knox. We're going to go see if the gold is there, he said. We're going to go see if the gold is there. Obviously, last week you had Elon Musk talking about that. It moved very, very quickly on X. It was it started off with Musk saying surely the Fort Knox is audited yearly. And the whole gold community said, no.
No, it should.
And very quickly he responded with, that should be done on camera. We should do that on camera. And then lo and behold, another few days later, Trump's talking about going to Fort Knox like he's going to Disneyland. He seemed almost giddy about it.
He did.
We're going to Fort Knox.
We're
going to see if the gold is there, and we'll be very disappointed if it isn't. Now, of course, did you hear about I dare call it a conspiracy theory, but did you hear about, instantly when this happened, there was these posts with a documentary by Bill Still.
Yes.
Bill Still did a great documentary on The Wizard of Oz and the gold standard, but he did another one about the Fort Knox gold. And he talked about that Ian Fleming, who wrote Goldfinger, was in MI5 and perhaps got wind of this idea that the gold might be stolen. And then there was a whistleblower that the gold was going to be stolen or was stolen. And this person ended up falling from a balcony. Turned out it was David Rockefeller's Secretary.
Yeah, it was Nelson Rockefeller.
Oh, Nelson Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the lady that wrote that was Louise Auchincloss Boyer. 3 days after the story broke in the LA Times, 3 days later, she mysteriously fell to her death from the 10th floor of a building after the story
That's
broke.
not funny.
And it's not, but it's all, it makes you scratch your head, right? I mean, these are all stories as to all ultimately lead to, let's audit this Fort Knox here. This shows the importance of let's get to the bottom of the truth. And this is actually the governor, Nelson Rockefeller. He became the vice president, and actually the governor of New York, and then vice president from 1974 under Nixon.
That reminds me of when Gordon Brown sold off half of England's gold and became Prime Minister of England.
That's right. Very similar.
Very similar. So you have these stories of, and of course, in this documentary, there was a senator that said, I tried to get into Fort Knox and I wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters and they just said no. And they said, why can't I come? I'm a senator. I'm used to going on to military, bases and whatnot. Why can't I go to Fort Knox? They just said, nope, you can't come. Now, of course, it may be biblical, but now there's flooding all around Fort Knox, right? I don't know if they're going to be able to go because there's all this flooding, but very interesting times. I think we should stay on this subject, talk about what this could mean for the Treasury, revaluing gold. We'll get Scott Bessent's take on it because he seems to think, I didn't think that was in the cards.
We're going to be doing what?
We're going to what? The number 18778-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. If you want to hold physical gold and silver in your portfolio, you can get it direct through our e-store at guildhallpreciousmetals.com. You can pick up 10-ounce bars, 1-ounce bars of gold. We have the coins available.
My favorite, the silver kilos. We got those in stock. If you're looking for something a little bit smaller and more divisible and you're registered your RSP, that would be the one. You're getting smaller divisible product at the same price in value and economical value as a 100-ounce silver bar. So get in touch with Guildhall on that.
That's right. And for Quest Trade, holding physical gold and silver in a registered account, Paul has been loading up on those kilo bars so that you can have that smaller divisibility and be able, and it's a good value product as well, those kilo bars, which 32.15 ounces sounds weird, but it's 1,000 grams. That's why it works. The number 18778-SILVER, the website guildhallwealth.com. This is all about protecting yourself and also the potential of revaluation. We know that gold is moving higher because the debts have to be paid off. And to have the balance sheet go up on the asset side is just as important as paying down the debt. You could have a massive mortgage, Jerry, but if the value of the property is going up, that's great. Or if you're making more money, that's great. What does the bank always ask you? They say, "Oh, you want a loan, right? What kind of money are you borrowing right now? What are your assets? How much money do you bring in?" Mm-hmm. So it's just as important to have growing assets on the other side of the balance sheet. And it's not a big stretch, logically speaking, to say, look, the gold at the Treasury is on the books at $41 an ounce. By the way, they revalued it in 1973 from $35 up to $41. It's up to conjecture what they did with it. Apparently, they were paying down debts, etc. But there it is, sitting at $41 an ounce. And if they were to revalue it instantly, two things would happen, and Peter Bachvar talked about this on CNBC. It would put a floor on the price of gold, and the Treasury would find over $800 billion. Speaking of the Treasury, Janet, Mrs. Yellen, you're missing $4.5 trillion from the Treasury. What happened?
It's not chump
What
change.
happened to the money, Janet? You got to explain that. So audits reveal a lot. So I think it's very important to audit Fort Knox and see that the gold is there. And of course, if they revalue, you could be looking at an $800 billion windfall. But Scott Bessent, when they talked about creating a sovereign wealth fund, was surprised that he said it wasn't in the cards to revalue gold.
That was very interesting. It was breaking today that Scott Bessent somehow said no to repricing. However, gold shrugged it off. Trump's still calling for Fort Knox to be audited. However, what Scott Bessent said, in fact, quoting him, he said, "Not what I had in mind." But in my opinion, he's not the man with the pen that can sign an executive order to get this done. And what we have to know is, I mean, being the Treasury Secretary, he should know the tools, what the tools the U.S. has under the Treasury, in the U.S. Treasury, which would be the U.S. Treasury's gold revaluation mechanism, which is often referred to as the gold revaluation account, the GRA, or the Exchange Stabilization Fund. And this account would be able to value those gold reserves, which are currently valued at $42.22 an ounce. That figure was set, as you mentioned, Jeremy, in 73, to a higher market value almost instantaneously. So it is something that I found very surprising, but not surprising at the same time.
I think of it as, wow, what did we learn from MicroStrategies? The infinite money loop, or whatever they wanted to call it, right?
Yeah.
The infinite money glitch. Well, you revalue gold on the books, and all of a sudden you've got $8 billion. You could easily buy some gold with that and throw it in the sovereign wealth fund. Of course, the demand for the physical gold at those prices is going to drive the price even higher, which means the value of the product at the Treasury is worth more, and you could borrow against it. So you could effectively have an infinite money glitch with physical gold, but there is a cap on how high it can go, and that's the beautiful thing about gold, is it's measured in ounces. You say, well, in 1980 it was 1 ounce of gold was $850. The Dow traded at 850 points. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. In 2011, we got down to a 4-to-1 ratio there. In 1980, the debt was $1 trillion. Gold went to 850. That's a 1 trillion to 850. We're at 36 trillion in the U.S. So that would put gold somewhere in the 27,000 range. And these are also the numbers that it would take to back the currency once again, with gold. So, look, one day at a time, 1 year at a time, if you got a 20% increase on gold every year for the next 5 years, you'd be looking at $7,000 an ounce gold. At a 35-to-1 ratio, gold to silver, you'd be looking at almost $200 an ounce on silver. So, look, we are 30 days into the golden age, Jerry, and we're already auditing, headed to Fort Knox.
We haven't even seen it all. We have a list of accomplishments so far from Doge that have highlighted the theme of accountability and the theme that has led to this talk of repatriation, which is now forcing honesty. We can't expect our governments to be honest. And as Ron Paul once said, because gold is honest money, it is disliked by dishonest men. What we've seen Doge do is bring to light the darkness from, in 2021, a report estimated that the U.S. government wasted around $54 billion in improper payments on federal programs, Medicaid, unemployment, DEI programs, and gender-related policies, hundreds of billions, corruption left, right, and center. But it's leading to repatriation. And what I do believe is this market, we are seeing a time where we're going to see prosperity. As Milton Friedman once said in 1976, the major monetary metal in history is silver and gold, or silver not gold. We have to remember the U.S. is importing more silver than gold. Please do not overlook. This is the time for the retail investor to wake up and recognize as the clear choice, silver is the clear choice. Otherwise, the military-industrial complex is going to try to gobble it up and leave you with scraps to the market. The silver industry has done a good job of releasing information about solar and all of these usages, but let's not forget the elephant in the room, the military-industrial complex. If you look at their reports, the Department of Defense has no silver stockpiles. Let's audit that. They have no silver. This is the reason why I think Trump last week did a big deal with India. We saw India did massive amounts of importing before the run-up. They have all the silver. So you better snuggle up with Narendra Modi and get the silver, because silver is going to be inputted back as money in the United States.
Big statement. We'll be watching, Jerry. The number 18778 silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. If you want to pick up a few ounces for the first time, you can go to guildhallpreciousmetals.com. We do deliver for free on orders over $1,000, and you can pick up a tube of silver maples, a 10-ounce bar, a kilo bar, as we mentioned before. And of course, if you want to hold physical gold and silver in a registered account, we will help you open the account, help you with the transfer. We are very much service oriented here at Guildhall. Give us a call. We're happy to discuss these markets and discuss how to get involved in these markets. And again, the number 18778 silver, the website guildhallwealth.com. If you've missed a show, catch us on YouTube, catch us on Rumble, follow us on X. And thank you so much for listening to The Real Money Show. We can't wait to speak to you next week.